Okay, this video is for 7.3, which is short and sweet. It's got 5 problems, and we're all finding the least common denominator between more than one fraction. So when we're talking about the least common denominator, we're trying to find the smallest number that the denominators will all go into. So it's kind of confusing at the beginning because we're so used to pulling out a greatest common factor, and it's not the same thing. So let's look at a problem like number 1, where it says find the LCD, which is the least common denominator. So if you have 2 fractions, and one is 5/4 and the other one is 7/6. First of all, when you are finding the LCD, you do not care about the top. We're just looking at the bottom. So here is my method. There's more than one method. I find this one to be the easiest and one that makes the most sense. If I'm going to find the smallest number that 4 and 6 both go into, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the biggest denominator and then start finding its multiples, numbers that it goes into. So let's go again to the biggest number, which is 6, and do 6 times 1, which is 6. Let's see, does 6 divide evenly by 4, which means does 4 go into 6? So in your calculator, do 6 and divide it by 4. If you get a decimal, that just means it doesn't divide into 6. It doesn't go into 6. So that is not going to be a number that 6 and 4 go into. So 6 wasn't it. So now I'm going to find the very next thing that 6 goes into. So after 6 times 1, I will do 6 times 2, which gives me 12. So 6 goes into 6, but 4 didn't. So means they don't, that's not the smallest thing they both go into. The very next number that I can use is the very next number that 6 goes into evenly, which is 12. So let's try 12. Does 12 divide by 4? If you get a number that is not a decimal, that means 4 does go into 12 evenly, right? So that means this answer right here is your answer, 12. Because does 6 go into 12? It does. Does 4 go into 12? It does. Which means we have found the very first number that 6 and 4 both go into. It is 12. Okay, let's look at this next one. I've got 4 over 21. I've got 11 over 15. And I've got 17 over 105. I'm trying to find the least common denominator, which means I don't care anything about those numerators. So I want to find the smallest thing that 21, 15, and 105 all go into evenly. So let's see all of these. My biggest one is 105. So the very first thing that 105 is going to go into is whatever 105 times 1 is, which is 105. Let's check. So I know 105 goes into 105. So yes, that'll go into 105. What about 15? So in your calculator, does 105 divide evenly by 15? If I get a number that's not a decimal, I don't care what the number is. If it's a whole number, which it is, that just means that 15 does go into 105. So that one goes into 105. What's the last one I need to check? 21. So do the same thing. 105 divided by 21. Again, I don't care what the number is, but if it's not a decimal, that means that 105 does, or 21 does go into 105. It's a whole number, which means, yeah, that one also goes into 105. So all three of those numbers, the very smallest number that they all go into is 105. Okay? When we get into number 3, let's see, I've got 6 over, something new, y to the 9th, and 12 over y to the 8th. So again, finding least common denominators, which means I don't care about the tops. But this time, I have got a letter that has an exponent. Y'all, I've got the best shortcut ever. When you are finding the LCD of your letters that have exponents, if they're the same letter, your LCD is that letter with whatever the highest exponent is. So if I'm looking at these, what's the highest exponent? 9. That's your LCD, y to the 9th power. That is the smallest thing that they will both go into. Okay? Number 4. I've got -5 over 7y. And I've got 35 over 5y. So let's see. Let's do, first of all, don't care about the tops. Let's do the number part first. I've got a 7 and a 5. So which one is your biggest number? 7 is. So the first thing 7 goes into is itself, 7. But does 5 go into 7 evenly? No, it doesn't. So it's not 7. I need to go higher. What's the next thing 7 goes into? Well, that would be 7 times 2, which is 14. But does 5 go into 14 evenly? No, it's not going to go in there evenly. It's going to give me a decimal. So it's not 14. What's the very next thing that 7 goes into? 7 times 3, which is 21. Does 5 go into 21? No. 5 doesn't go into anything, any number, unless it ends in a 0 or a 5. So it's not going to go into 21. Let's go higher. 7 times 4 is 28. Is 5 going to go into that? Nope. Let's go higher. 7 times 5 is 35. So, does 5 go into this? 5 goes into all numbers that end in 5. Which means 7 goes into it, and so does 5. So 35 is the number part. 35 is the smallest number that 7 and 5 will both go into. Now I got to deal with my y's. Here I have y to the first and y to the first. What is your highest exponent? They're the same, right? So 35, y to the first is your LCD. All right, last one. Over 3x plus 12 and -20 over 7x plus 28. So again, don't care about the top. When I'm looking at the bottom, I want to see it in factored form. form again. Y'all, this factoring doesn't ever go away. You're going to have it in college algebra, and then you're going to have it, if you go higher than college algebra, you're still going to have to know how to do it. So I'm hoping that you really focused on that last chapter. Chapter 6 is so incredibly important in future math classes. You're going to have to know how to factor. There's no way around it. Looking at this one, I have more than one term, which means I need to look for something in common. What goes into 3 and 12? 3 goes into both of them, so I'm going to pull that out. If you divide them both by 3, what are you going to have? Here, I'll just have the x plus 12 over 3 is 4. So now you can forget about this. Here's what your denominator is in its factored form. You're going to do the same thing to the other side. 7 goes into both of those. If I pull out a 7 and divide them by 7, let's see, I am left with x plus 4. So let's do our number part first. Let's see, 3 and 7, who's the biggest? 7. So that's who we're working with. 7 times 1 is 7. So let's see, does 3 go into 7 evenly? No, 3 goes into 6, and then it goes into 9. It doesn't go into 7, so it's not 7. What's the next number that 7 goes into? 14. Let's see, does 3 go into 14? Let's see, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. So it jumps right over the 14. It doesn't go in there. Go to the next number. 7 times 3 is 21. Does 3 go into 21? Let's see. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. 3 does go into 21, and so does 7. So 21 is your number part. Now, when we're talking about LCD and we have parentheses, you have to just include all the different parentheses. So what different parentheses do I see? Well, I see one, but it's the same. So you don't include it twice, just once. So 21, x plus 4 is your least common denominator. Okay, so today we've done 7-2 and 7-3. And we'll continue on Thursday with the next sections.